today we're gonna have some fun. And so let's get right into the wild shit. I'm gonna share my screen.
I'm trying to invest in my future.
Right.
See, these dudes kill me. That's what's wrong with this generation today. These young boys today, what do she bring to the table? The hell you mean, man? What do your ass bring to the table? You got a woman that can come to the table that can make another you. What else she need to slide up to the table with? What about your job? What happened to men who were supposed to be responsible? Do you know that it's our job to take care of a woman and some children, to have a family? That's our damn job.
But what happens to when the woman tell you, I don't need a man, Steve?
Well, they need to what? Okay, if you don't, how that's working? You know, how that's working? Who don't need no man?
I'm independent. I can do for myself.
Yeah, but why do you want to? Yeah, okay, you can drop a transmission. You can sandblast your house. But hell, do you want to?
No.
If somebody could get out there and drop this transmission for you and sandblast your house, why don't you go get your nails done? I'm not trying to reduce a woman to nothing else. Be all you can be. But damn, who don't need a man? That's a lie. What man don't need a woman? I tell you what. Try to live without them. Try to live your life without women. This ain't about la-da-da, man. This some bullshit without women. If it wasn't for women, what would you? Aristotle Onassis said it best. He said, if women did not exist, all the money in the world would have no meaning. Dog, women is everything. They'd catch me out. They'd lick, man. But these young boys done forgot it because these women out here, they've had to be independent because they ain't got the right man.
Okay.
But this system of marriage is still good.
Okay.
This system of a man taking care of a woman, that's really how it's supposed to be. All the rest of it's bullshit, man. And y'all need to quit tricking yourself with this new way of thinking. Because this new way of thinking ain't getting y'all no damn where. I'm sorry. I got in trouble on one time. This group came after me because I said Marjorie belonged to me.
And they said she's not a possession. She's a person. She's a human.
She is. She mine. What is you talking about? She belonged to me, but I got news for you. I'm hers. I belong to her. See, if you don't like that system, carry your punk ass on. Go do something else. And let me know how that work out for you. I want to belong to somebody.
Right.
I want somebody to belong to me. I take care of my wife and my family.
Did you ever feel like you belong to somebody? In your previous relationship, did you feel like they...
All right.
And so, react.
So much
in those 3 minutes.
I don't want to shoot down people's parade, but because people be trying to get me riled up with shit like this, and I just be like, that's his perspective.
Right.
Okay.
No doubt. That's.
I'm not saying I'm done. But I'm done right now until somebody else go. But I'm gonna lead by saying that's his perspective. It didn't even move me. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you.
Come on.
That's how he feel.
I second that, Days, on the real. Everything you just said. That's why you Days. You know?
I appreciate you, kid.
No,
that's
real,
why you.
I
appreciate you.
Days. Because it's like, I agree. Like, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. That's cool. And I'm not motivated. That don't move the needle for me at all. It was nothing there that I was like, oh my God, I'm so angry that he said that, or oh man, I'm digging that. Like, that was just some real neutral shit coming from a dude that, you know, this is kind of like his thing. So yeah, I feel you on that. I wasn't moved at all, but you know, I don't know, like, where do we begin? You know what I'm saying?
Wherever you like.
So
Can I mess with Jay for a second? Jay, the irony. He's a Capricorn. I just want
that doesn't move me. You like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Use the lightsaber to reflect it right back at you. Feel me?
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dre.
Nah. So I mean, I think we talked about this here on this platform in terms of gender roles, right? Because that's what he's kind of really getting into.
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up. That we've already discussed it.
Discussed.
I mean,
yeah.
But go ahead.
And so, I think all of us on this platform have agreed that gender roles are kind of antiquated. You know what I'm saying? To feel that, you know, your PP parts dictate what you should or should not be doing. That's
Correct.
an antiquated sense. And so yeah, I get that he's, you know, a little bit on the old school side, but yeah, I totally don't agree that, you know, if you're a man, you're supposed to do this, and this is like your role, you know. So I don't know if I have anything more to say to that. Like, yo, if you want more information, I feel like go back to Man Cave Monday when we discussed gender roles, and you're gonna hear a lot more of us to say about it. I don't really feel like we need to rehash that.
Okay.
Um, the next thing is that when men say, well, what are women bringing to the table? And he feels like the fact that she brings her vagina and she could reproduce, that's enough. She doesn't need to bring anything more.
That's
Um,
what he said.
that is like the lowest fucking thing you can possibly bring. You know what I'm saying? And and it's bad advice to tell a young man that, hey, bro, you don't have to worry about nothing that she's bringing. As long as she has a vagina, you're set. No, in fact, if that's all you're looking at, you're setting yourself up for some pure failure. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need, and I'm not even talking about monetary things yet, but I'm like, her personality. Can she be trusted? There's so many things that you can't put a price on that a person can bring to the table, woman or man, that means so much more. And you need to do your due diligence if you're going to partner up with her. But to tell a dude, yo, you don't have to worry about nothing as long as she can reproduce, bro, you are, I mean, and this is a man who hasn't he been divorced a couple of times? You know what
The
I'm
woman
saying?
he's speaking
Come on,
about
thank you,
is his
Dex.
third wife. Yes.
Thank you, Dex. So you've been divorced twice. So the fact that she had a vagina really wasn't enough, right? Like you needed something more. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because so basically it was more than the fact that she had a vagina that, you know, caused you to say, all right, well, I'm not satisfied with this relationship for whatever reason. So just tell a young man, bro, you ain't got to worry about nothing else other fact that she can reproduce. I think that's a problem. And what if she can't reproduce? Is she now has no value whatsoever because she can't reproduce now? Or what if she just chooses not to have kids? That's a whole nother thing. Does that make her like invalid? You know, so I think these are still antiquated ideas. And yes, I agree they don't really move the needle to me. And it just shows that Steve Harvey is kind of like you're out of touch. He's still stuck in the 90s, 80s with that bullshit mentality. Like as a society, we've kind of moved on from that and showed that women can have value more than just the fact that they can reproduce. They can work and bring a lot more to the table. And it would be a good idea for both people to ask, you know, what people certainly bring to the table, whether that's monetary things or, as I always say, you know, the things that money can't buy, you know, the things that are priceless. You know what I'm saying? For me to trust somebody, for me to be with someone who knows how to love, like these are priceless fucking things. You can't put a fucking you know, a
Absolutely.
price tag on that. You know what I mean? If I could be around somebody that I could feel like I could trust fall at any time and they got me, can't put a price on that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
my perspective, I feel like that's antiquated, and yeah, like it's just another reason to ignore Steve Harvey.
Wait. Okay, listen. Hold on. Let me buy it.
No,
Let
I ain't
me
gonna
give
say
him a
that.
little
I
bit
ain't
of
gonna say
grace.
that.
Hold on.
I ain't
Hold
gonna say
on.
that.
Hold on.
Like some grace.
Hold on.
Don't say
Let me give him a
ignore.
little bit of grace. He
Yeah,
does. He does.
I got you. I'm going to too. I'm going to too.
Yeah, he
I'm
does
going to
say
also
if
great.
I cut it so we don't hear like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
after
yeah, I
that,
dig it.
Shannon Sharp asks him, has he felt in the past relationships like he wanted to belong to someone? Has he felt this same way about anyone else in his other marriages? And he goes into yes and why and where he messed up in the past and all that stuff. And if y'all want that stuff, you should go listen to it. It's an interesting interview, but there is more context if you go into that part. But
Yeah.
that part wasn't what I thought we should react to. I thought in what I played, he said so many interesting things that it would spark some conversations here, especially because we've already spoke about gender roles. Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah. And let me just say this, then I'm definitely gonna let y'all brothers chime in. The part about belonging to someone was probably the only thing that I really agreed with. You know what I'm saying? Because
Okay,
I
why?
don't see it as I'm about to go in. So I didn't see it as like you are a possession of mine, right? And I love that fact that he broke it down. It's like, oh no, we belong to each other. You're mine and I'm
Yes.
yours. So that I can sort of co-sign, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, if you're in a relationship with someone, if you're married to someone, it's like, yes, there's this sense that we belong to each other. I'm looking out for you, you're looking out for me. We're partnered, right? Even if it's let's take the romance out of it and let's just make it a business relationship, right? It's like if me and Jay are partners, we're partners. You know what I'm saying? You're my partner. You know what I mean? So I belong to you in this partnership and you belong to me. So whatever your resources, your skills are, you bring it to the table. I'm bringing my resources and skills, and we're going to make this thing happen, even if it's just us getting together and digging a fucking ditch. All right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your fucking shovel is my shovel, nigga. Let's do this thing. You know what I'm saying? So I could certainly co-sign to the fact that in a partnership, we feel that we are belonging to each other. I don't see a problem with that. I get that some people might not want to use that language because it might sort of like objectify someone, but I don't feel like that's what he was saying, and it's certainly not the way I use it when I make that statement.
Go ahead, Dex.
What we were seeing here is Steve Harvey a little too hyped up to be with Shannon Sharp on his podcast. That's all I'm taking it as. He's a good man, hardworking man, godly man, not a perfect man, which is why I loves God, motivational, very motivational. Very, if you listen to him, he's very motivational. I really dig him. I dig how he loves God and he's worked hard. We've seen the example of blessings in his life, no doubt about it. But I think he was a little too hyped. He got way too hyped. Once you said she could create another you just went right off you got too hyped up talking to Shannon Sharp. That's the way I look at it. You got too hyped up talking to Shannon Sharp.
It's that second drink.
For real.
No,
I saw the podcast.
Episode, right? Yeah,
I saw the podcast. He had a second drink. He should have had that second drink. He got too hyped.
So for some context, what happened is when the podcast starts, Shannon Sharp offers him a drink. He says, "I'm gonna do one. I only drink one drink. I never ever drink two drinks."
He said he never got drunk before.
He said he never ever been drunk. He always only has one drink. But once Shannon Sharp started asking him about his ex-wives and current wives, he said, "You got me talking some shit. I'm gonna have a second drink."
He took another drink. So my point is here.
Yeah, he got plastic.
I think he got too high. You know, from a Christian point of view, you become one with the person you're with, which means one means there's two halves, so there's two equal partners. I think you may be, as a man, you may be assigned to lead, but you're not the boss or master of anybody. There's two equal partners, and to belittle your partner just to her reproductive ability was off. I think he just got a little too hyped, to be honest. And he tried to fix that afterwards. He was trying to say, well, I'm saying be all that you can be. But you already started off too late. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, man, Steve, man, don't do that.
The army got to do with this.
Word. He went a little bit too off because be like Dre said, I'm with that. But I belong to you. You belong to me. I represent you in the streets. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People want to know where you at when I'm by myself because we love each other. I represent you. You ain't gonna worry about me in the street because I'm yours. So I represent you wherever you go. People want to know where you are. You know what I mean? So I'm totally for that. But right there when he said that. He went too far off, you know what I mean? And, he went too far off. It was funny because I felt like he wanted to be pro masculinity and positive things about masculinity, but once you say that, you're going into, and dare I say this person's name? I won't say his name. You're going into the top G realm once you say, if you know who I'm talking about, when you start saying what she has reproductive skills. That's all she got from me. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna say the dude's name. You know who I'm talking about? Former kickboxer,
Oh
half black,
yeah,
half white, bald head. I ain't gonna say his
yeah.
name, but you know.
Oh,
But
that's
once you
what
go
you
there,
mean.
you're going too far. You're disrespecting ladies. You know what I mean? You know, you sounding good, and then you go disrespectful. You know what I mean? So that's my whole thing. I think he got too hyped up, and you know, Shannon's giving him his own personal cognac that he makes.
Oh,
I think he went right off the edge, and that was my beef with that. So I'm giving him a little grace, but you know, right there when you belittle your partner's uh, what your partner could bring to a relationship. That, and he said it too. He said his I heard the podcast. So he said his wife changed him, made him a better person. You know what I mean? Made him all the success he's had. So had wisdom and all that stuff. So don't go back now and go, she brings that to the table. What do you mean? You know what I mean? He just threw himself off. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Ness?
So, first off, I want to say, Dre, stop reading my mind. Because every time I had a thought, that was his topic real quick. That's what he was talking about. So I'm just going to start there. But, so, I mean, most of my thoughts have been said. I think in general, he's an old guy. He's detached from reality in a sense. And when I say that, it's because also he's a rich guy. He's a different person. His relationships are going to be different from everybody else, and his relationships are going to be different from everybody who's saying, what does she bring to the table?
Correct.
So, I mean, the simplest thing is his opinion just doesn't matter. Because everything he's going to say is from his point of view.
Correct.
I've always felt like just his advice about relationships has always been detached. He does make some good points, but it's nothing that's like a generalization, and he makes it seem like it's something that can work for everybody when it can. And I give him props because that is in the regard of he does recognize where his faults laid in his previous relationships. And he has always spoken about that. And he's like, well, I messed up in XYZ. And this new person I'm with, she's made me better.
Yeah, let me jump in real quick. This I'll even say this too. He admits his mistakes, and he admits that he still believes in love and like relationships. I give him that too because he saw his parents. He did say that in this podcast. He saw his parents' successful relationship. So I give him that too. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
So yeah, so I've always felt like even though I don't agree with the way he approaches relationships or the way he approaches his advice, I do think like that's commendable that he recognizes his faults and he recognizes, hey, these are things that my partner helped me with. He's gonna have different relationships with people. And so if it's that he's talking to people like that can say, oh, well, I'm going to be the provider and my partner just has to be at home and take care of the family, even that's more than just giving you a child. Like that's still a lot more than that. And I guess like y'all were saying, that second drink was probably too much because what he like in that clip that just didn't make sense. Like it's definitely things that are like just don't fit, but it does. It's funny because it fits in with what his general advice is, which is what leans to like gender roles. Like the man is responsible for this. Men think about this. Men have this in mind when they want a relationship, and women have this in mind when they want a relationship. And for some people it works. For some people, it doesn't, because that's just not, everybody's not the same. Everybody's going to have a different approach to relationships. Everybody's going to have different things they want out of a relationship. And everybody's going to have different things they're going to bring to the relationship. Yeah, you can't really just set generalizations like that. You're not speaking to those people when you say things like that. It's like it's a weird reaction to have. It's a weird response to have, because it's like, well, you're wrong because this is how my relationship works, and it's like, no, like people can have those things that they want to look for, and they're the whole idea of what you bring to the table is just, well, you want this out of me, but what are you going to add to my value? What are you going to do to build up our family, our relationship? What are you going to do to help this along? It's you want something. Well, what are you going to give me? Like, it sounds super transactional, super basic, but like, that's kind of what relationships are. They are transactional in a sense.
Yes.
Because,
let me throw one more thing in.
Yeah,
he was so hyped, right? He was so hyped. I saw this podcast before, but when I knew you were going there today. I knew it, right? But he said in this podcast, the right woman is like an elevator. She could bring you an elevator. You can bring it up or bring you down. All right. So then that means your partner has to bring something to the table, right?
Yeah.
If you say, and he said, and vice versa, the same thing with men. He said it. So what are you talking about? This is what happens when you got too hyped. Right. Shannon Sharp, you're having a good time.
When the Remy's in the system,
ain't no telling.
Ain't no telling.
So will I say something that's stupid? That's what I am yelling. Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing too. A lot of people hold that view where it's like, well, the man has to bring X, Y, Z. And then whenever the question comes to, well, what is the woman bringing to the relationship? It's very much, oh, well, she looks good, or she's there, or whatever. Like, it's never anything beyond that. And then the conversation is completely crazy, because it's a very strict definition of relationship and marriage that he's talking about, because he's focused on things that are between a man and a woman. And relationships are so much more complex than that, varied than that. And it's like, then what do you do in those instances? You're like my biggest thing, like, I laughed kind of big at like 3 different points, and one of them was her purpose is to bring a little you in. Like that's so insane to say, like, oh yes, that's the woman's job, is to make a baby, and that's it. Yeah. Like that's all she needs to do. And it's like, okay, so who's taking care of that baby if you're gonna be at work all day making money to provide for the family? Not her, the nanny, right? You're gonna get a nanny. That's the nanny's job, to take care of the baby, right? And she just has to sit there and just spend your money. Like, it's so weird and stupid. Like,
son, who's signing up for grown children? Not I. Who's signing up for grown children? Who's signing up for grown ass children?
Yo, that's
you feel my son?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm waiting for my son to get 21. Who's signing up for grown children?
No, yo, Nesta, you had some incredible insight. I just want to say, I didn't want to interrupt you. Like some people have. I would make no. No, I'm messing around.
I thought we were the trusting Nesta.
I'm messing around.
What's going on?
I'm messing around. But honestly, like those 2 points of like, he doesn't have a perspective of a working class person. Like, yo,
that was great.
Do you see the price of food right now? Like this sense that you could just be a dude and work. Like, where are you living? Like, you in the stratosphere, like you said. Like, a person might want to have that perspective and say, hey, I would like to work and let my lady stay at home. But that's not the reality of today. Like, do you want to get milk? Do you want to pay rent? You know what I'm saying? Like all y'all in New York City, it's like, come on, son. Like, do you know how hard it is to get that rent paid right now? It's like not easy. And so a lot of times it requires a partner that can bring in some income. And the other thing you said, which I think was like great, this incredible insight, was like, even if you can afford to do that, being a stay-at-home mom is no easy task. Like, does she have the minerals to raise a family? Because even if you do have a nanny, and let's say you have staff, maybe somebody's going to cook, you still need to have the minerals to raise a family. Can you go to a school board meeting? Can you talk to a teacher? You know what I'm saying? Can you do these things that are like necessary? I mean, people who are parents know that it ain't easy to raise that kid, and all the intricate details of, making sure they're safe, bringing them to practice to certain things, watching out for their friends, looking at their social media accounts. Like, you can't just sit back and just say, well, I had the baby, so okay, I'm out of here. Like, no, even if you feel like she doesn't have to work, there's still a ton of more things your partner needs to do than just bearing a child. That shit is retarded. That was great, fucking Nesta. And, I just wanted to big you up on that.
Well, I'm with you on that too, because I think the way that you started that, right? Because one thing that I try to avoid, based off of how you started your point, Ness, I try to avoid I call it what is it called? Definitive, opinionated individuals, like people who are very opinionated definitively. Because like Dex said, I felt like he was very passionate. His tone was very strong. And when you see things on the internet like this, sometimes when people take a certain stance on something that they know people may not agree with, they deliver it in a way. You notice how he was delivering in a way. Why? Because he knew people was going to get riled up. You, Steve Harvey, you act like a lady, think like a man. You feel this ain't your first rodeo. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let's keep it real. This ain't his first rodeo. So he gave it that level of passion. And I feel like some people try to deliver things like that. When they do that, it make me think about the saying when they say, don't raise your voice, strengthen your argument. I feel like that's what they be doing. You get what I'm saying? You giving your opinion so definitively, so strongly in a way where you force people to agree with you because some people want to disagree, but you want to make them uncomfortable with the idea of disagreeing with you. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that Ness pointing that out was great, because a lot of these people are really giving their perspective, whether if it's passionate, whether if it's passive, whether if it's delusional, naive, however you want to classify it. These people are giving their opinion. So most of the time, I just try not to listen with any. I'm not emotionally invested. Shout out to Ilsa, my teacher. Social science, where you look at things without incorporating any emotion. So now I can look at all components of it. You feel what I'm saying? And I want to be able to look at it entirely. I don't want any emotion to kind of jade my perspective of it. You feel me? And I'm going to be honest with you. That's just what it was to me. It was just his perspective. Yeah. It's like, oh, Steve Harvey doing what Steve Harvey do.
What's funny about what you're saying is because he is who he is, because he talks like he's a professional talker. Like that's what he does, right?
I like that.
So people like that, they're going to, no matter what it is they're saying, they're going to sound like they're an expert on it, and that what they're saying 100% makes sense to just like any person passing by and just taking a quick listen. Oh yeah, no, that's crazy, because he said it with conviction, because he said it without like stuttering or thinking too hard or doing those things that make it sound like you're an expert in what you're talking about. And so him and people like him that have that gravitas, that have that skill to speak, they're going to sound more intelligent about the topic because of that. And that's
and
just
passionate
going to
too.
Right, and passionate. All of those things add up, and they'll just make people think, well, you know what, this makes sense. This is the right idea right here. This is the man who has the plan. Like this is it.
And I'm going to
it's
say
kinda
again,
crazy.
he contradicted himself in this whole podcast.
Right.
Earlier, he basically said, you have to have the right partner, which means that partner has to offer something to you, to help you. He said that.
Right.
So
He did.
I'm chalking some of this up to he's talking too hype. Old
A
man
second
talking
drink.
too hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, second drink, got too hype.
I'm curious.
I'm
curious to know what Jay would say. That's why I didn't really want to say much. I'm curious to know what you think, Jay.
Well,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know that was the clip. When I saw the clip, I was curious to know what you would think when I saw it on my own.
I was, I was hoping that nobody saw it. Dex hit me already and was like, I saw the whole episode. I bet you I know what you're pulling up. And I was like, God damn it, man. Why he had to see it?
I said, this wasn't. Were you talking to Shannon?
Yeah, he immediately texted me after I put it in the group chat.
I said, what clip is this? Were you talking to Shannon? I see that already. I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, he knew I was going with it. Dex know my style.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it would make interesting conversation, and this is why I love this pod, because it's 30 minutes in and I've said 3 words. And look at all the good stuff y'all have said. It's great to have the squad with me. I love my guys. My guys come in here, they chop shit up, they dissect, they analyze, and then they be like, all right, Jay, your turn. This is for you now. Here you go. I love it. I love my guys. Having my guys with me gets me excited. Y'all are going in. I'm just sitting here like, yeah. Yup. Ooh, that's
He's like, he taking class pictures and shit.
You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I'm saying? I just, word.
Yo, Ness, you killed it though, Ness. That intro was immaculate. Immaculate, Ness.
So, yes, I'm gonna pull a Dex here, and I'm adding on to what Nestor said before I say any of my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I'm borrowing that, Dex. I'm borrowing it. You know what I'm saying? Just adding to your point, Nestor. In 1987, and most of y'all probably know what I'm about to say, but in 1987, is it right here in front of me or is it in the drawer? It's in the drawer. Eddie Murphy, Raw, 1987. He said, when you make a certain amount of money, you don't have to work. When you are a wife to a rich man, he said, the ends are meeting like a motherfucker. He said, some people, they got a husband and they got to chip in. So what they do, they get a job at the boutique on the weekends and they help chip in. But when he said Johnny Carson was worth $300 million, the ends was meeting like a motherfucker. He said Johnny Carson's wife had one job. Fuck your husband. He said when the government come to say, hey, what you do, you fill out a W-2 and you write in, I fuck my husband. Now, that is clearly one of the things that is on Steve Harvey's mind. And so, yes, Nestor, you are 100% correct, which is why I'm just adding to your point that, yeah, when you're rich and you live in a $15 million mansion that used to be owned by Tyler Perry, something else he said on the podcast, and you literally live on top of a big-ass hill, yes, you are king of the hill, living in a huge-ass mansion, and yeah, your wife's job is to fuck her husband. Now, he also said, as Dex said, so once I'm adding to you too here now, Dex. Yes, he said exactly the quote that Dex said about the elevator. A good partner will bring you up or down, so choose wisely. And he quoted a couple different people. One specific person, he quoted them, but I didn't think we needed to play, like 20 minutes on the pod. So, yeah. Clearly that is part of his mentality. And he believes that he just needs someone who's going to kind of support him. And he mentions many of the ways that she supported him. He gave her very good, very detailed credit to some of the things that other people and himself view as milestones in his career. He said, if you look, I was already famous. I was already on TV. I was already on the radio. After marrying her, that's when this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. I credit it to her. So yes, he said all of those things. Now, what do I think about all this wild shit he said? Well, I think, like we all said, women are a lot more than being able to give you an offspring. And Dre, I think, had a great point of, What if she can't have kids? What if she doesn't want to have kids? That's a great point. And I think it's sad that that's the first thing that flew out of his mouth. Uh, we're going to say it's drink number two, or maybe like Dex said, maybe he was just a little too excited. Who knows? But yes, that was bad. The thing about belonging to someone is cool. I never viewed it that way. I look at it more like a partnership, which Dre said, right? Where it's like, okay, I do these things, you do these things. I have these capabilities, you have those capabilities. We're coming together to form a union, and we are going to do things together. So if you have a business, well, then that's our business, right? If that's what's going on, you got a private practice. All right, I'm trying to get you clients. I'm trying to reduce costs. I'm working with you. If we over here doing body butters, okay, so you helping me make the body butters. You printing out the label. You setting up the table at the pop-up. You giving out samples. I don't know, something. It's our situation. We have come together. And so, yeah, that's how I look at it. I look at it, especially when we're speaking of marriage and partnerships, lifelong partners, soulmates, all these terms, they're the same thing. It's one, right? It's no longer separation. We are together. It's one. So yeah, you want to call it halves, cool. You want to say, I own you, you own me, whatever. I mean, to me, it's less about the semantics and more about the details inside, right? Fab once said, what's the line? I know Days knows it. Titles ain't shit if the story ain't matching. That's the line?
Talk about it. Yes, talk about it. Talk about it.
The title doesn't matter, right? If you say, Days is my best friend in the whole wide world, but I treat Days like a piece of shit, does it matter what I call Days? It doesn't. No. What matters is the details inside, right? It don't matter what you call him. We could call this whatever we want. It's really what is inside of the structure, what it is that really builds this thing. Those are the things that matter. So if Steve Harvey feels like his wife belongs to him and she belongs, listen, whatever, man, that's cool. But that didn't really do anything for me. What I thought was really interesting is that this is his third marriage. He spoke in depth during the entire podcast. No, not the entire, but throughout the podcast, there were different mentions of different relationships and different dynamics. And he spoke about this woman very highly. I like that he credits her. And Ness, you said he seems to do it a lot. That's cool. I have a love-hate relationship with Steve Harvey. I think that he's done great things. I think that he is very successful and someone we should be taking notes from, maybe on the business side. But there's a lot of things he says and does and narratives he pushes that I'm not too fly with. That think like a man shit wasn't really my thing. And the conversation of what is brought to the table is very important. And I think that, yeah, he's out of touch with the working man. He's out of touch with people like us. Now, if somebody who's making the average income in 2023 gets with somebody like Steve Harvey, their life changes. In fact, they don't even need to be making the amount that Steve Harvey makes. They could be making a fraction of it. If somebody here is with someone who's making $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year, that's not even anywhere near what Steve Harvey's making a year. But if somebody here is with someone in that income range, all of those conversations change. It's a total different ballgame because now she's asking you that question. She's saying, well, I already got a fly-ass crib. I already got a house and 2 cars. I got everything I need. What you going to do to improve my life? What you going to do? If you're marrying certain people or you're with certain people, those are the conversations. Or they'll straight up tell you. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I've experienced things where women come to me and say, well, I already got these 5 things, so I don't need any of that shit from you. Maybe I can help you with those things. Now, what I do need is I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, and I'm looking for this. Can you help me with those 3 things? Because if you can help me with those 3 things, we can rock out. But this 5, I don't got it.
Yeah. And most of the time, those things are the intangibles that I was talking about. It's not
Exactly.
another car, another house. It's those things that those people have. As I was saying, is usually those intangibles. But my
I think
thing
it's
there.
another discussion too. If you're of a certain caliber, you should be dating on a certain caliber. So you don't even have to be talking about what you offer. You know that this person's skills, so to speak. You know what I mean? I mean, if
Well,
you're going to turn to somebody and say what you bring to the table, then you should already know what that person has for you. I think. You know what I mean?
all right.
The other thing is too. Look, if somebody say I own that person, we got a problem. That's bad words. You know what I'm saying? Belong, okay, you can say belong. I belong to a union. You know what I mean? And she belongs to a union. And we could flip that and say we belong to each other. You know what I mean? We represent that union when we're out in the street, but own is that we're going to another place. I don't like that own
I
part,
feel you.
you know what I'm
Can
saying?
I?
Just throw that out there.
What I want to say in this situation, right? Because a lot of this stuff is just opinion based. It's subjective. A millionaire can mess with a homeless person. A homeless person can mess with a thousandaire, etc. It ain't no rules to this. Like most of this stuff is transactional, and people are forgetting it's somewhat of a barter system because that person may not make the same money equivalent to you, but they might have such attributes and qualities that supersede any dollar amount, any dollar value. Because at the end of the day, if a person want to deal with you, they gonna deal with you regardless of what the circumstances is. You know
Well,
what
all
I
right.
mean? Whether
I hear
if
you.
you work at McDonald's, whether
Uh,
if you because the thing is this, like I said once again, and I want to take those labels out of it. Let's take the McDonald's situation out of it. Let's just stick to what the person could contribute. You know what I mean? And let's use an example. Let's use an example of somebody being able to contribute in a way that's not a dollar amount. Let's say you in the barbershop. You feel what I'm saying? And dude is there, he ain't bringing in no clients, but the barbershop is clean. Let's
Right.
talk about it. The bathroom is clean. Ain't no hair on the floor. The flyers is being given out. People coming inside because they know it's there. He's playing his part in another way. You understand what I'm saying? That's still complementary to the situation. And I think that's how relationships are. Like, if I'm gonna be with somebody, I want to be with somebody that's gonna compliment me and I compliment them. Cause I did that. I've been in a relationship for years where I never asked that a woman to pay for nothing. I paid for everything, every rent, every bill, every you feel every grocery, everything. You feel what I'm saying? So, you know, it's
my
his
point,
opinion.
yeah, and I hear that. But my point was to say, if you have the gumption to tell somebody, well, I got this, that, blah, 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 what you gonna do to me? Well, then maybe you should deal with somebody on your caliber. I'll say it a little bit more firmer. If that's how you feel, go deal with somebody on your caliber if that's what you feel. But I agree with you.
I feel you there because it's like, yo, if I'm messing with somebody, we dated maybe once, twice, or whatever, and they ask me what I'm bringing to the table, I think right there it's already over. Because if we're getting to know each
Mm,
other, you already know what I'm bringing to the table. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being transparent
mhm.
with you and you being transparent with me, we already know what each other's bringing to the table. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a dumb question anyway. You know, what I mean? You should know what this person is bringing to you. Should, if you're
Right, right,
getting
right.
to know them,
You,
but to sit down with somebody that you're trying to get to know and be like, okay, what do you bring to the table? Like, what? But for me, it's like,
mm,
you know
yeah,
what? I'm gonna walk away from the table. Period.
right.
Fuck that.
Yeah, facts. That's a whole fact. I just think this whole situation, man, like I said, there's a variety of different relationships out there that some people may not even be aware of. Shout out to Ness that was putting us on about the polyamorous. You know how many people probably like, what? Nah, I can't do that. Oh, and then they might even say it's wrong. See, I think when you start saying things are wrong or it's right or what about, you know what? I can't understand that. That's not something that I could agree on. That's different. Am I wrong? That's a
Uh,
different stance
yeah,
versus
right.
something that's right or wrong. Because what's right to you is wrong to somebody else, and what's wrong to you is
You're
right to
absolutely
somebody
right.
else.
We're in a
You
new
know what I
era.
mean?
Believe what you want and shine in what you believe in. Okay? It's as
So I
simple as
want to.
that.
I'm voting for Dex, but Jay looked like he's pondering. I'm voting for
No,
you,
I've been
Dex.
trying to be patient. Go ahead, Ness, and then I'll go.
So I kind of want to take the conversation somewhere else for a second, because
Uh-oh.
we are definitely talking about relationships in like as a business model or something like
Yes.
that. And I kind of want to take that out for a second, because really what you should be looking for is someone that you care about, someone that you love, and someone who loves you back. Um, Everything else is just, toppings, right? Everything else is extra. If you're solely looking for a partnership because they're going to be beneficial to your pocket, or they're going to be beneficial in some way, in that regard, and you're not looking for someone that you genuinely care about, then you're kind of looking for a relationship for the wrong reasons, or you're looking for a different kind of relationship. Um, and I think when that question comes up, what do you bring to the table? Or a lot of the times that I see guys mention that, it's in response to, well, my man has to look like this, my man has to do this, my man has to do that. Um, and so then that's when the question is, well, if that's what you're looking for, and you are putting out, the whole attitude of this is what you need to have, well, then what do you have? That's what you want. What are
It's like a
you?
counter
Right,
question.
exactly. I've never seen it as something straight up as like, oh, this is the first question I'm going to ask.
That's a good point.
It's usually
That's a good
in
point.
response to someone saying, oh, I want ABC, versus like, well, I'm just looking for somebody to love. I want to see how we vibe together. I want to like, and that's kind of the point of dates, right? You want to see how y'all vibe together, how y'all mesh. Are you feeling this person? Are they feeling you? And that's the whole point of all that. And that's the whole point
Yeah.
of dating, period, and until getting to that point where you solidify a relationship and do whatever you want. And then that's when you have those conversations of, well, how are we going to do XYZ? Because yes, you do have to live together. Well, you don't necessarily have to live together, but whatever. Like, you do have to like bring these two lives together in a sense. And so you have to figure out how they fit together and how you're going to make them fit together if you really want that relationship to last and to survive. Because it's not always going to fit perfectly where you have, these things, and your partner has these things, and they just happen to work out in this perfect little pattern, and they perfectly build this ladder or whatever. It's not going to work out that way all the time. Like, sometimes you're going to have feeling for someone that doesn't have all those things you're missing. And that's
Love gets you, man.
right. Like,
Love is gonna get you, like BDP said way back in the day.
so
But go
it's
ahead.
it's a wild thing when people have conversations about relationships, and the conversation is always, well, what does this person have, and what does that person have, and what is this person going to do in the relationship, and what is that person going to do in the relationship? And I think Deck said it where he was like, well, if people are just going to do things, or Dre said it too, where it's like, oh, you're going to see what they're doing. Like, it's going to be there and it's going to be present, but that shouldn't be what you're walking into a relationship looking for. Is, what are they going to do for me? That's not
The precedent.
Right.
That shouldn't be the precedent.
right. That shouldn't be the initial focus. It really should be something else entirely, because this is someone you're planning to spend the rest of your life with. Like, it shouldn't just be, well, because that's just not going to work out if that's your focus. If that's your focus, is what they can provide for me. Yeah.
Okay. I don't give a fuck if we love each other if the relationship is shitty. I don't care if you care for me if you're not putting in work to make the relationship last. That's number one. Number two, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a discussion about what we need from each other. In fact, I think that's an important conversation because, for example, if I know, hey, I have a lot of issues with organizing, I really would benefit from someone who's good at organizing. Maybe I just need an assistant, right? But it would be fucking amazing if this other person was really good at organizing. Wow, what an addition that would make. Is it a requirement? No,
Exactly.
But I don't think
That's
there's
the part
anything
I'm
wrong.
saying, right? Those things are just butter. They're extra. They're not something that you're looking for in your partner. If your partner has it, awesome. And if your partner has those things that, fill in those gaps, fantastic. But if that's your focus, that's my thing. If your focus is those things, then you're not looking for a relationship. You're looking for a business partner, and that's completely different. And that's
No,
a whole separate situation,
no, I
because
don't agree with that.
having those
Oh, go ahead,
conversations
Ding,
are
ding, ding,
cool.
ding, 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 ding.
Having those conversations having those
I'm sorry.
conversations are cool. I agree with you. I agree with you that having those conversations are important. But and yes, if you love the person and the relationship is just not working out, if people aren't putting in the work into the relationship, yeah, sure, right? Love by itself isn't enough if the people aren't putting in the work. But
But I think what you're saying is,
my
I
my
don't mean to
yeah
cut you
my
off.
my thing is, yeah, it's just if your focus is uh looking for those gaps to be filled, like if that's your focus for a relationship, it could have the same pitfalls as if your only focus is that you love each other and you don't realize that nobody's putting in the work to maintain the relationship. Like
Yeah, we're
it's
talking
that balance you still need either way.
we're
Go,
talking really
Dex.
black and white here. Too much. We know this is really a great thing. Love and these conversations happen almost in a blur. They don't just happen like, you know what, I'm falling in love with you, but let me know what you put on the table first, because I got these demands.
Right.
It don't happen that way.
Yeah.
It happens like you're going on dates and having a good time and laughing, and you hear somebody's ethics and values as you're going along. You're like, I like that. I'm encouraged by her in those things. And then sometimes you go, I don't know, man. I don't know how far this could go, because she's kind of like we're talking really like we're really compartmentalizing love and what we need from a relationship. It really is more of a blend. That's why. I just want to throw that in there,
Right.
Nesta, because
Yeah.
add that to what you're
No.
doing.
No, you're
Jay, will you
absolutely
finish?
right. Go ahead, Trey. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dre.
No, no, I'm just agreeing with Dex. Like that's absolutely the
Oh,
way it
okay.
is.
No, it's fine. Listen, y'all don't want me to talk this pod. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting, son. I've been anticipating, son.
Pancake Monday.
I'm lawyering for my guy, son. I'm lawyering for my guy. I'm like, Jay, are you done? Are you done,
You know what
Jay?
I think? I think this leads to a great topic that we will have a full discussion on next pod, because it's been almost an hour and we should move on.